Hello, guys. I have been promising to go through the Groves trial and just haven't made stream time for it. So I figured I would work on some videos. So these are probably going to be part one, part two, about an hour long. But I do really want to get you guys this trial because I think you will love my favorite lawyer because she shows none of the, professional, like, let's be nice. Oh, no. She is all the petty and all the ready to give out some mental justice, you know? I'm just saying. She is my favorite one because she does not take any crap from these people when they are trying to say that they have no idea how this little baby got all of these injuries. Now, this one will be a hard one to listen to. They're going to have doctors and a children's service caseworker whom you will want to be very upset with because she did not follow any protocol that she was supposed to. And she basically let these people get away with this for longer than they should have. She could have stopped things had she followed, standard operating procedure, but I'll let her say that in her own words. Now, enough of me talking. Let's get into this video.
In gynecology. Um, so I run the gamut from um, prenatal all the way to death when it comes to women's health.
Okay. And you said you've been doing that how long?
I graduated medical school in 2002. I graduated residency in 2006, and so I've been in practice here since.
To be fair, this man does look like several of the obstetricians that delivered my children. I'm just saying.
2006. I was with Dr. Pettit when I first year out.
Okay. And if you would give the members of the jury an idea about your educational background, where you went to school. I know you said you graduated in 06.
Yeah, so I started undergrad at University of Cincinnati. I spent 2.5 years there, and I took a little sabbatical, and I finished up my undergrad at Ohio State University. I went to medical school at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and then I did my internship and residency, a combined internship residency and obstetrics and gynecology, a split program between Athens, Ohio, and Portsmouth, Ohio. And as soon as I finished, I stayed here.
Okay. And do you have professional licenses or board certifications?
Yes, so I'm licensed in Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Florida, and I'm a board certified obstetrician gynecologist through the American Osteopathic Obstetrics Gynecology Board.
Okay. Be handy what's being marked as States Exhibit 17 for our identification. Doctor, do you recognize that document?
Yes,
Okay, what is that?
this is my CV.
Okay, and so that just explains all the qualifications we just went over, your employment history, your educational background, your
Yes.
licenses.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, we've moved to have him declared an expert as an OBGYN.
Does either defendant wish to question him as to his expertise?
No, Your Honor. No objection.
No, Your Honor, we would so stipulate.
Dr. Adams will be found to be an expert in his field of obstetrics and gynecology. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what that means is that Dr. Adams will be allowed to offer opinion testimony in his field. Hutchinson, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, let me direct your attention to January 2019, specifically January 10th. Did you have an opportunity to assist in the medical care of defendant Jessica Groves? Okay, I'm going to need you to speak up. It's
Sorry. Yes, I did.
okay.
Oh, for the love of
Explain to
all
the
that
jury
is
how you became
Mike-phobic.
involved.
They called me early in the morning for someone to come to the triage. It's our emergency rooms in the obstetrics unit for someone with no prenatal care and active labor, almost complete. And so then I came to the hospital, and that's why I first met her.
Okay, and approximately what time did you arrive?
If I recall the times, I think about 6:54, something like that. I can't remember the actual numbers. I have to look at the numbers.
Okay, all right. Explain to the jury what your role was there.
I was on call for no prenatal care or walk-in patients for that morning. And for someone who has no prenatal care, I take care of those that walk in that need help. So I showed up and evaluated
Okay.
the
You
patient.
said you were on call,
Yes,
so do the OBGYNs rotate that call for,
for no prenatal.
So there's a rash of women who don't get prenatal care. Now, look, I know insurance is a thing, and I know this economy is tough, but there are programs to help you get prenatal care if you are struggling. Just swallow your pride. I had to do it. It wasn't comfortable for me. I had to swallow my pride. With my third daughter, my company did not offer maternity insurance, so I had to get, state insurance. And, it's okay. It's okay to accept help once in a while when you're, struggling. So please, reach out and find resources in your area. Do not be afraid to do that. I had a big mental block on it for a long time, but, my third daughter is here, and that's a whole nother story time, but she is here and she is safe now. And, just, swallow your pride and get that care. There are programs out there. Now, this chick, this thunder cow, didn't go to prenatal exams because she was too high. So, no slack given whatsoever.
Care we do.
for no prenatal care
Yes.
patients? Okay. And what medical history or information did you receive from your nursing staff regarding the defendant and her pregnancy prior to actually treating her?
Just that she had no prenatal care and she was about to deliver a baby to get in here as soon as possible.
Okay. Did you ask any questions directly of this defendant or her husband?
I did.
Okay, explain to the jury what that was.
Well, when I arrived at triage, she was 9.5 centimeters dilated. And for you that don't know, complete dilation prior to delivery is 10 centimeters dilated. So she was almost ready to deliver. So I made a quick examination of the patient and asked her some questions. At that time, though, she was distant and didn't answer many of my questions.
Okay.
Because she
If you
didn't
would
give
explain to
two
the members of the
craps.
jury why prenatal care is important for a mother to follow through with.
Yeah, so prenatal care, it's the stalwart for us. We can help, actually, prenatal care actually starts with preconception care. We like to optimize the female's body so that it can be receptive to pregnancy. And also, we can identify any risk factors that we might have to take care of during the pregnancy that might optimize the environment of the mother and then optimize the outcome.
Okay. And are there risks in not going to your prenatal care or seeking out prenatal care?
Certainly, it depends on what's in the history that we have to look at. Risk factors such as smoking, high blood pressure, other issues that we need to identify and optimize so we get a good outcome.
Okay. And you said you did ask some questions of her and she did not answer?
Very distant. She was distant. So directly, I can't remember answering any questions at that time.
Okay.
Read
Were there any
allegedly
pain
high as
medications or
ball.
narcotics administered
Okay.
to this defendant?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Do you know why?
Normally, women get epidurals prior to delivery, but she was so close to delivery, we don't give narcotics that close to delivery because the baby don't have an adverse reaction or have difficulty after delivery if we give narcotic that close to delivery.
Okay. What was her demeanor? Did she appear to be in pain like a normal patient would be a dilated
Most
pain?
women, when they're complete, if they have no pain medication on board or no epidural, would be in extreme pain and showing that. Like I said, she was just distant, an odd reaction.
Okay. Did she ask for pain medication?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. About how long were you there before the baby was born?
Because y'all
I
could not
think it
be
was just several
bothered.
minutes.
Just could
Okay, just
not.
several minutes?
Yeah, like 2 to 4 minutes, I believe. Once I got there and got her set for delivery, we had a baby.
Okay. And once the baby's born, what do you do?
I deliver a child, I cut and clamp the cord, and then the nursery nurses take over. And then I watch for mom, and I deliver the placenta. I check for tears or lacerations at delivery. I repair them. And after that, my job is finished, and I normally leave.
Okay. Do you recall having any specific concerns about this patient, given any information you received or the fact that she didn't have any prenatal care?
Well, there's always concerns with no prenatal care because you never know what you're going to have. And during the course of that several minutes, it was brought to light that she had had some substance abuse in the last few days. And so that's something we have to take into consideration with the child.
Okay. Doctor, do you see in your practice mothers that have substance abuse issues or that are under the influence?
Certainly.
Okay. Would you say that she was under the influence as she was there in labor that day?
in my opinion, with her being so distant and acting not like we normally see, I believe she might have been impaired.
Okay.
He's being so careful. What I would have asked is, was she high as balls? Again, this is why I'm not a lawyer, but name and shame this chick. She is a thunder cow that has been excommunicated from the lady club. She is just a female breeder, and I have no chill with her. But I love how he's being nice. And that tie really matches that shirt. So, sir, kudos.
Were you involved any further in the care of defendant Jessica Groves after the delivery?
Yes, so like I said, I left the room. They called me back after her blood pressure had dropped and she started having vaginal bleeding. It's called a rapid response. So if her blood pressure drops and her vital signs go, there's a rapid response team at our hospital. That way we can have all people on board.
Okay, as the world's worst Christian, y'all know me. Y'all know I have no chill for people that deal with kids this way. Maybe we couldn't have been so rapid responding. Your doctorness. I mean, look, I'm glad that they have things in place to help mothers, but this woman is not a mother, and I'm kind of Judge Dredd on this one. I mean, she didn't care about her son, but she definitely needs medical help herself. But God forbid her son, need medical help. He'll just be bashed around. Ugh.
They did arrive at the floor and called me, and I did come to the floor to evaluate her for her vaginal bleeding.
Okay. And do you know about how long of a time span between delivery of the baby and this issue?
That was at 9:40ish or so, I believe.
Okay, so hours.
Hours, a couple
Okay.
hours later, yes.
In between that time, were you notified of any problems with the patient?
Not at that time.
Okay. If you would explain to the members of the jury what you did to treat the hemorrhage that she had there.
Yeah, so she had no IV access. So I gave her some medication called Methergin. It's medicine to clamp the uterus down to help stop bleeding. I also examined her bottom and also cleaned out her uterus with, it's called sponge forceps. She had some clots in there. Cleaned that out. We wrapped.
Okay, you know what? Never mind. Maybe she did suffer, because holy God. Ugh. I remember those spongy forceps and hard pass, 0 stars, would not recommend. Children, show how much I love you. I continue to have children, or I'm just really bad at planning things. Anywho, on with the story.
Got the uterus clamp back down, but she did have a significant amount of bleeding.
Okay. And did she recover okay after that?
Certainly. So after we got IV access, actually was a central line that we had one of our physician assistants from the ICU come down and put in since we couldn't get peripheral IV access. Once we got her stabilized, we moved her to a different floor where we can monitor with an EKG. On maternity, we can't monitor the baby or the mom's heart. So we had to move her to a different floor so we could monitor her. I think she spent the night, we gave her 1 unit of blood because her blood dropped. And I think we stabilized her and she was discharged home after that the next day.
She was discharged home the next day?
I believe it was the next day.
Okay. Let me back up just a minute and ask you, show you State's Exhibit 18.
Jessica's like, no,
Sir, can
I
you
was
identify the
treated
document that I have?
terribly, just terribly.
Yes,
What is that?
that's the newborn identification form.
Okay. And how do you recognize it?
There's a footprint on there. And this is what the nursery does. They perform this once the child's born and put on there.
Okay. And does your signature appear on there?
My name's at the top up top, and the
Okay.
nursery nurses sign that.
Okay. And
It
if,
just,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, so my name is at the top, but my signature is not on here. The electronic stamp is on the bottom, but my hand signature is not on there.
Okay. If I could, put that up so the jury can see it. If you would, before I take that, because I'm not sure you'll be able to see it when we put it up there, it's not as,
Yes.
the picture's not as good. Tell the members of the jury, the baby's weight, length, upon delivery.
Yes, sorry. 5 pounds, 10 ounces was the weight, and the length was 19 inches. And it was a male. Anything else you like?
Then I'll put it up for you. is this the same document here on the screen that you just looked over?
Yes,
Okay. And so it
He's
identifies
like,
that
I love
Elmos and
Elmos.
is Dylan Brooks. Is that correct?
correct.
And so this is just a form that the hospital fills out for every infant that's born there?
Yes,
Okay. And identifies information about the birth?
Right.
Height, weight, date of birth?
Correct.
Okay. I can have just a few minutes. Doctor, just a few more questions. You said the delivery happened within minutes,
yes,
is that right? Would you call that an uneventful delivery?
uneventful.
Okay, so no injuries to the baby as a result? of birth?
Uneventful and
No injuries to the
evently.
baby.
Okay, does that occur sometimes?
Do
The
injuries
babies are
occur?
injured while they're being born?
Oh, uninjured? Most of the time, that's the way it happens. That they have no injuries at all at birth.
Okay, but it does occur sometimes?
Occasionally, you do have injuries at birth.
Okay. Baby Dylan did not have any injuries as a result of his birth?
Not at all.
Okay, I think that's all I have at this time.
Ms. Hutchinson, Mr. Stratton, you may cross-examine.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Adams.
Yes.
Okay. Look at those two. If I saw footprints of my passed away baby, I don't like to cry in public, but I would be bawling my eyes out. They are monsters. They are monsters that need to go, let's get this up here. I have no chill today. Snake Island. And then Goofy McGoofface is going to be, their lawyer is going to ask some dumb as hell questions. Let's see.
Just a few questions. You said you asked some questions of Jessica. Do you remember what those questions were?
I'm just trying to get past medical history from her.
Okay, could you give an example of some of those questions?
I normally typically ask, and this is what I asked her, past medical history, past surgical history, any medications she's currently on, or any illicit substances.
And how did you describe her earlier?
Distant,
Distant? Could you explain that a little bit more about what you mean by distant?
distant, well, in my opinion, she was, lack of terms here, not aloof, not responding to my questions.
Not responding?
Yeah.
Okay. Was she
She
not?
was alert, but not responding.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, that if she was alert and able to answer your questions. Did she seem like she was in pain or?
Not for someone at that stage of labor.
Okay. Dylan, was he delivered early?
She delivered early, what,
He wasn't full term, was he?
at the time with no prenatal care, it's hard to tell in that time frame.
Okay, so you're not sure at that time when you were delivering how many weeks he was?
With no prenatal care, there's no way to ascertain that at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like if your client had gone to the doctor
Ms. Scott,
instead of
you may
been
cross-examine the
high.
witness.
Good morning.
I believe that you stated that you were approximately in the room a very short period of time, correct? Just minutes, and then you
Correct.
had some after care and follow-up with mom, is that correct?
Correct.
Both parents were in the room?
I don't like her hair, but I love her necklace. So congratulations, ma'am. And your hair does look better. Deep conditioner, ma'am, deep conditioner. Or wigs. They're fun and you can do different things with them. Just saying.
Or do you recall?
I do recall him being in the room.
Okay, you do recall Mr. Groves being in the room. Did you have any direct conversations with Mr. Groves that you can recall?
I don't recall that.
Okay, so you do not know if he participated in any of the questions, or you probably may not have been directing your questions to him.
I don't recall that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Any further questions, Ms. Scott?
No more questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is this witness free to go?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Stratton?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Scott?
Excused.
Doctor, you're free to go. Thank you for your time today. State may call their next witness.
Your Honor, state would call back to the stand Patricia Kraft.
Hutchins, Patricia Kraft.
Oh, dang it.
Ma'am, you were sworn in yesterday, but since this is a new day, I'm going to administer it oath again. You raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And please have a seat. Ma'am, I asked you yesterday, do you object, there's media in the courtroom, do you object to your image being filmed or photographed during your testimony?
Yes.
Witness has objected, will direct the camera to be lowered and be no
Yeah,
photography
because you
her image
stunk
during her
out loud
testimony.
at being she doesn't want to be filmed because she stunk out loud at being a protector to this baby who had no voice. And I am now realizing that I must have missed part of day 1. So I will be putting this video up after I do the rest of day 1. But this thunder cow doesn't want to be filmed because she failed this baby. And, the parents are responsible, but the state is just as responsible. DCFS did diddly doodles.
Teeman, you may continue your direct examination of the witness.
Thank you, ma'am. Just for the record, could you state your name again?
Patricia Kraft.
All right. I'm going to hand you what is the March State's Exhibit 16. For purposes of reviewing this, if you would set it right here on the corner of this platform like that. You may have to lean forward, which is okay to review it. And there are some paper clips we'll discuss here later.
Y'all know I love a man with a binder.
Here, okay? All right, ma'am, we've already talked about how this case got started, so we're not going to start
Daggone
from
it.
scratch. We're going to pick up where we left off. Let's get this out of the way right now, however. Ma'am, would you agree that whether it was through a safety plan or custody with a case plan, there was ultimate decision to place the child in the care of the father?
It was decided that if he could pass a drug screen and was negative, that the child would be placed with him only.
Okay. So, and at this point in time, if I'm referring to page 2 of 89 from the activity logs that should be in front of you there. On January 11th, do you see that?
There you go, Dip. Expecting a person to be able to read.
Yes.
Okay. That references as one of the records of Children's Services that there was a caseworker or investigator named Lauren Johnson who did a drug screen on that date. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And on that day, according to the records, Daniel tested negative for any substances.
He was negative.
All right. And that went into part of the whole safety plan that Investigator Johnson was working on at that point.
Correct.
Okay. So is it fair to say there were some initial understandings from Dad by Children's Services? Was he to have a steady job?
Yes.
Did he, according to Children's Services knowledge at that time, have a steady job?
Yes, he did.
Where did he work?
He was lying. He had not had a steady job in a year. He also used his son, and this will come out, he used his son's urine to pass the drug screen. These 2 douches should be sent to Snake Island.
He stated he worked at Rural King in Waverly.
All right. And was he to be drug-free?
Yes.
Did he indicate to Children's Services he didn't have a problem with drugs?
Yes.
Ah, and
He
they just
also
believed
indicated
him.
there was a difference between, or a conflict between his children and his wife. Did he indicate who he would side with?
No. His children.
Okay. So that was an understanding too. If something came up, he's going to take the children's side.
Yes.
Did he indicate whether or not he would protect his children?
X to doubt.
Yes, he did.
And who made these representations to you or your agency?
Mr. Groves.
I have a for-profit charity called Mo's House. If you are this gullible, I'd like you to send me money. This chick and child, protection agency. You mean husband of Dopehead, definitely who has been together for 30 years. He's gonna side with his children instead of his wife when he is obviously the more submissive partner, as we can tell because, Jessica goes into rages. Who did the mental math on this one? Did you graduate before No Child Left Behind or after? All the shame on this child agency, all the shames.
By the way, do you know how drug screens were done by Children's Services in January of 2019?
The person comes in, they go to the bathroom. They are told not to flush the toilet or turn on the water.
Does an agent from Children's Services follow them into the restroom?
No, we stand beside the door.
All right, is the door open or closed?
It's usually cracked. It depends on the worker.
Do you observe the urine come from the person into the cup?
Yes. No. No,
You do not?
we don't observe it, no.
Okay. Now, you've had a chance to review this record, and you were intimately involved in the case as a caseworker, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that Children's Services put some requirements on the dad if he were to receive placement of this child?
Yes,
First, was there an understanding that he would have to work with Children's Services?
yes,
Was there an understanding that there would be weekly contact with Children's Services?
with the investigator, once it came over to me, it would have been a 7-day follow-up appointment, home visit, then a 4-week, and then monthly after that.
Was there an understanding that if you were to call them, try to get a hold of them, he would have to contact you back?
Yes,
Was there an understanding that mother would receive drug treatment?
yes,
Was there an understanding that mother could not be in the home except for supervised visits?
yes,
Was there an understanding that dad would remain employed and not have any drug issues?
yes,
They failed at all
Was
of
there an
these, and yet
understanding that,
one wasn't taken away.
The parents would apply for any public benefits that would be available for the child?
yes.
What kind of public benefits would they need to apply for?
They would apply for food stamps, but we would keep the medical card because he would be in our custody. And
Okay,
of course, they would get WIC.
all right. Were there any other agencies they needed to cooperate with to effectuate the public benefits?
We send referrals to Help Me Grow for every infant.
And did you do so in this case?
Yes.
And I apologize, I might have mentioned, and mom was to continue to have drug treatment?
Mother was to continue to have drug treatment and go to drug court and individual and counseling.
All right. And who assured you that these things would happen?
Mr. Groves and Jessica Groves.
Ultimately,
Y'all, DCFS, please explain this mental math again to me. Let me bring out the whiteboard of truth. So, need to go full screen for this. You have two druggies. Druggie number 1, and we'll put little hair, little chesticles, just a little dress. And druggie number 2, and you're like, so here's the druggies, all right? And you expect them to tell the truth. Love that I can't spell. You, for the love of all that is holy, my brain has gone off today. So you expect these two to not do any of the, I'm just going to draw a syringe here, but totally on the honor system, like pinky promise. You gave them a baby that was suffering from withdrawals. So he would be shaking and crying all the time. What mental math did you use? You let them say, I double pinky promise swear that I will never do drugs again. You know what? You should all be in the same sort of situation as the Groves. That's my thought. That's my opinion. Look, you can totally disagree with me in the comments. I am all super fired up. I do not like DCFS, especially because they unalive more children than they save half the time. And they give kids back to these parents that, because they cry, they unalive them instead of letting them stay with foster parents who love and care and will look after them. Oh no, we are hell bent on getting these broken families back together. Absolute moronacy, if you asked me. And moronacy is a word. I made it up. I approve this word.
was the child, being Dylan Groves, baby Dylan, removed from the custody of the parents?
We obtained temporary custody of Dylan.
And as part of that custody, if Children's Services wanted the child to be produced, are the parents or who the child was placed with responsible for bringing that child to Children's Services?
Yes,
Are they required to do so?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Let the record reflect, I'm handing the witness, showing counsel of Martin States Exhibit
10, 11, and 12.
Now, we are
And
watching
could
this at
you,
1.25,
tell
so
the
if they look a
jury
little
what those
jerky,
three documents are?
It is an order that, the underlying request of protective order vesting in the custody of Dylan in Scioto County Children's Services Board.
All right, so we've got in front of you, I'm gonna put up here on this one. I'm gonna go through them again, Your Honor. State Exhibit 10 here. All right, it's kind of hard to see, but can you read what this case is styled as here?
In the matter of Dylan Groves and Daniel Groves.
All right, and what I have on the screen here is State's Exhibit 10, and this is, you can find on the right side what this document purports to be. What is this document I have up here on the screen?
I can't really see it.
Is that a complaint?
Complaint, yeah.
And so is this a complaint that Children's Services initially filed to obtain custody of Dylan Daniel Groves?
Yes.
Take the other ones from here. State's Exhibit 11. What is State's Exhibit 11? Can you see that okay?
It's the affidavit.
All right, what's the affidavit?
That is where the investigator goes and types up a filing summary, and it is signed and entered into the court when she goes to testify.
Okay, so when a child is removed from, or when Children's Services wishes to remove a child from his or her parents, those are those documents they file with the court.
Yes,
And in this particular case, do you recall if that complaint alleged an emergency at the time?
I'm unaware of that one.
Okay.
are you aware of anything,
Let me ask
ma'am?
it this way. Was the child removed at the hospital?
Yes,
All right. And was there a court order at that point to remove the child?
yes.
Okay. Are you sure?
I'm checking my records.
Y'all, I know it's type A of me, but if I were called to testify as an expert or what have you, I mean, sarcasm being my only specialty or Futurama, depending, uh, I would look at my notes prior to because the last thing I want to do is look like a dumbass on, the witness box. But far be it from me to tell this chick how to do her non-job of protecting baby Dylan. And yes, you will notice that I have no chill for this chick either because she didn't do her job. No one did their job except for the foster mother.
No, there was no court order.
Okay.
These
So
two
then
look
after
like
the
siblings
removal,
also.
They had to get an emergency order before the next day, is that?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have State's Exhibit 12 here. What is this document?
That's the entry from the court.
Okay. So this is the court's order from the complaint?
Yes,
Okay. And then this order, who is custody vested with regard to Dylan Groves?
Children's Services.
These three exhibits 10, 11, and 12, do those appear to be accurate copies of juvenile court pleadings?
Yes,
Who was, when you remove a child from his or her parents, where does the child go?
where does he go?
Where does any child go? What's the procedure?
When a child is removed, if we cannot find kinship care or family to take care of him, we will call foster parents and other agencies to see if they would have placement.
In this particular case, who was the child initially placed with?
Andrea Bowling,
Okay. And who is Andrea Bowling to the child?
foster parent.
Okay. Is she with the Children's Services Foster Care Network?
Yes,
Okay. And tell me about Andrea Bowling.
She was called by the investigator to see if she would take placement of Dylan, in which she did, and she went to the hospital and picked him up.
Okay. I think you testified earlier yesterday that you were previously a foster parent. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes,
What kind of training do you have to become a foster parent?
you have to have 36 hours of training, and then yearly you have to have 24.
Okay. What kind of training is that?
It goes from abuse to
These parents, these 2 sibling-looking parents had to have nothing except, "Please, please stay off of drugs and do a job. If possible, we'd like that. Also, keep your crazy ass wife away from the baby." But the foster parent has to have all sorts of training, get certified in CPR and everything else. Okay, sure. Sure, Jan. Make it make sense, all right? Make all of this logic math out for me because I am effing confused. I do not understand how it is that this family court, this, Child Protective Services looked at Andrea Bowling and then looked at the Groves and said, "You know what? YOLO. We're gonna give them back to the Groves." I mean, hey, I failed all of math, including trigonometry, but I can understand this equation.
sexual abuse, all the way up to delinquents, how to care for them, drug treatment, and that they have to follow the court orders as well as you do.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did Ms. Bowling have that training?
Yes,
And was she under those requirements to care for Dylan Groves?
yes,
And did she take Dylan, to your knowledge, to all his medical appointments?
yes,
Did she take Dylan, or did she contact the various agencies to help or assist with the public benefits?
yes,
Did she maintain contact with Children's Services?
yes, with the investigator.
Did she fully comply with every request that Children's Services made of her?
Yes,
Were there any problems or concerns with baby Dylan from his time with Ms. Bowling?
yes, the time that it was decided that Dylan was to go with his dad.
Okay. Let me back up a step, though. With regard to how she treated Dylan and cared for Dylan, were there any concerns with Children's Services about her care? of Dylan?
No,
Mhm.
All right. When did you first begin casework services in this matter?
I was transferred the case on January the 25th.
Okay. And if you need to refer to the record or your notes, feel free. I might direct you from time to time if you ask about specific activity log. All right, so I'm going to refer you page 18 of 89. The date's January 24th.
Yes,
All right. Was there any kind of meeting at Children's Services that day?
it was a family team meeting.
Okay, were you part of the family team meeting?
Yes,
All right. Who else was part of the family team meeting?
caseworker Johnson, Miss Bowling, and the parents of Dylan.
All right. And
Mhm.
when did you first meet the parents of Dylan?
On the 25th at
Okay.
this meeting.
Okay, at this meeting? Okay.
And you didn't notice they
And I
were
think I
high
already
as
had you identify
balls?
them earlier. Who are the parents of Dylan Groves?
Daniel is with the black and white shirt, and Jessica is with the white cardigan.
All right, and they are the parents of Dylan Groves?
Yes,
All right. So they were at this meeting.
yes.
Did they arrive timely to the meeting?
They was a little late,
How late?
about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And was there anything to follow the meeting with Children's Services?
They had a visit,
Okay. What kind of visit were they supposed to have?
just an hour visit.
All right, where does that take place?
It happens in the conference room or in the visitation room in the other building. But theirs was in the conference room,
Okay. So everybody knows where it is. Where's Children's Services located?
3940 Gallia Street, New
Is that
Boston.
New Boston, Ohio? Okay, and that facility has the administrative offices there?
Yes,
And it also has rooms for conferences?
yes,
It also has play areas, for lack of a better word, recreational areas for kids?
yes,
So it's the one, if I drive towards Portsmouth, if I look on my left, there's an older style building and then like a little playground and like a modular building beside it.
yes,
And the conference room, was it in the main building?
yes, main building.
And was any decision made with regard to the family team meeting at that point regarding the placement of Dylan Groves?
Not at that time.
Okay.
Hmm.
And what was discussed in the team meeting then?
We introduced ourselves. I asked if there was any concerns with Dylan, and then the parents came in and they was introduced to the foster parent.
Okay. Now, there's another son I don't want to leave out. They have another child?
Yes,
Who's that?
Daniel Groves Jr.,
All right. How old is Daniel Groves? at this
14.
time? 14. Was there any plan or care for Daniel?
No, Daniel was still at his dad's with
Okay.
dad,
Okay. And what was the reasoning behind that?
because Daniel Jr. had said that he had never seen his mom and dad do anything in front of him.
Okay. And he was 14.
Mhm.
Is there a difference
Uh-huh.
between a 14-year-old's ability to report an issue and a baby?
14-year-old can report, a newborn can't.
All right, so we have this team meeting. Did you go over the rules and requirements that Children's Services was going to have of the patient, or of the patients, of the parents at this meeting?
We did. We told her that she needed the drug assessment and alcohol assessment. She needed individual counseling, and she needed to comply with court orders.
And were the responsibilities and requirements that dad had to follow as well?
Yes, he had to do the same thing.
Okay. So that was followed, you mentioned, by a visitation?
Yes,
Were you part of the visitation?
no,
Was any worker Children's Services part of the visitation?
no.
Who was in the visitation?
Jessica and Daniel and Dylan.
Okay. Initially, was Andrea Bowling part of the visitation?
She was there and then she left.
Okay. Is that normal that they give them time they give the baby time with the parents without foster care parent or a Children's Services worker there?
Unless it's court ordered to be supervised.
Okay. To your knowledge, was there a specific court order with regard to a visit to Children's Services?
No,
being supervised?
there's no order.
Applause. Blessed be the closed captioned, for they make this a little bit funnier when you want to just punch your screen.
All right. During this time period, what was Children's Services doing to effectuate their goals?
We was making referrals to help me grow, and Miss Johnson had called Mahajan.
Okay. What is Mahaj?
Mahajan is a drug and counseling center.
Okay. It's located here locally?
It's in New Boston.
All right. So we have, and Help Me Grow, is it here locally as well?
Yes,
So we have the agency, through one of its workers, contacting these and starting to set up a process for the services for the parents.
yes.
And at some point, was there a change in the placement of baby Dylan?
Yes.
When was that?
The change was on January the 28th is when he was to pick up Dylan.
Okay. How was the change, how did the change happen?
It was, there was a conversation going on between Miss Johnson and the supervisor that if he could pass another drug screen, that he would be able to get Dylan back. Because he had no violent criminal history, he had no involvement with CPS, and that he passed his drug screen.
Okay. And was he able to pass a drug screen at that point?
Yes,
And who administered that drug?
Mhm.
I did.
And you'd indicated before how you administered the drug screen, did he explain how that drug screen went?
He came into the building. I showed him where the restroom was. I told him not to flush the toilet or run the water. He went in, I stood at the door and I had it cracked open.
Prior to that drug screen, did you search him? Any kind of
No.
Search?
Well, no, why would she
Did you
do
stay
that?
outside? Did you have visual on him providing the sample?
No.
That sample came back clean?
Clean.
All right. And from there, were arrangements made with the foster mom to give placement of Dylan to his father?
Yes.
Were there any concerns? You mentioned earlier there was concerns with the foster mom about that.
Yes.
What were her concerns?
The concerns was that he had a criminal history and that he was,
Okay,
had
I'll
court.
stop you there.
Concerns were, not was. You are supposed to technically be an educated person. Stop making us all look like Hillchucks. You give a bad name to Hillchucks.
You indicated he didn't have any violent criminal history,
Right,
correct?
there was no violence.
All right. Did she indicate anything about her observations during the?
Now, I do believe they're going to get into the fact that Andrea Bowling made several, sounded several alarms, raised red flags, said, hey, the mom looked like she's dope sick and, super high. And the dad has Jimmy Brewer eyes too. So the fact is that this foster mom was more caring, more worried about this child's safety than even DCFS. My shock, you can't imagine it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, during testimony a few minutes ago, you heard some unsubstantiated claims about a criminal record of one of the defendants in this matter from a person who has not testified, or at least not yet testified. You must not speculate and consider that evidence for any purpose. You must not speculate as to whether or not that is true or not true. We'll get into that later. We'll address that at that time. Can you all follow my instruction on this matter? If anyone feels that they cannot? None of the jurors have indicated they cannot follow my instruction. We'll expect you not to consider that portion of the testimony that will be stricken. Mr. Demon, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, with regard to the visitation and the concerns expressed by Ms. Bowling, were there concerns addressed by Ms. Bowling as to her observations of the demeanor or the condition of the parents during this visitation?
It was stated that she thought they was loopy,
Okay.
that Miss Groves was loopy.
Okay.
Oh,
Did she make
Jessica's
any concerns
pissed.
about the
She's like,
demeanor of Mr.
nah.
Groves?
No,
Okay. Did she further explain what, according to the records, what she meant by loopy?
that she was on drugs.
Okay.
I don't know. Comes back. Survey says she is the addict.
All right. So at this point, is it fair to say that you've taken over the primary role in this case for Children's Services Board?
Yes,
Okay. And was Mr. Groves under the same requirements that he initially made? That he be clean and not addicted to drugs, that he be employed, that mom only be in the home on supervised visits, that she would continue to do drug treatment, and that he would protect his children?
yes.
What was your next step in your casework?
All things that shouldn't need a court order or, child protective services to tell you what to do.
Responsibilities?
To make sure that the placement, that Dylan was handed over to Mr. Groves on Monday.
All right. And how did that go?
I was not there. I was in El Dorado, Ohio. It took place with my supervisor.
Okay. Any indications from the record or from your knowledge that there was any issues with the transition?
They was a little late. That's all I was told.
Okay. Who was late?
Mr. Groves.
All right. So Mr. Groves
A
was
little
for
late.
picking up his son.
Yes.
Okay. And when was your next contact supposed to be with Mr. Groves?
I was supposed to go out on February the 1st, which is a Friday. But due to the road conditions, I was not able to go, so I scheduled it for Monday, the 4th.
Okay. So was that the date where you were actually going to also go with Stephanie Jenkins from Help Me Grow?
Yes,
Okay. That's not a usual thing. That's not a requirement that she go with you at that point, but you guys were going that date together?
yes.
Okay. And so when did you conduct a home visit?
I conducted it on February the 4th
Okay.
at 2 o'clock.
Could you describe the location of the home in Sauga County, Ohio?
Once you turn into the holler, you go up, and then the trailer is back off in the woods a little bit.
Okay. Is this in or near Otway, Ohio?
Otway,
Okay. And what was the address of the home?
2241 Mount Hope Road
Okay, in Otway.
in Otway.
And is that in Sauga County, Ohio?
Yes,
Is the driveway paved or gravel or what?
it's dirt,
Dirt driveway?
Yeah.
Okay. On February 4th, what was the weather like that day?
cold and raining,
Cold and rain. All right. What were the conditions on the driveway?
muddy.
What? What time did you get there?
About 1:55.
Okay. It's a stupid question, but I want to make sure. That's the afternoon, right? You
Yes.
get there at 1:55 in the morning. Okay. Who was at the residence when you got there?
Jessica and Daniel Groves and Dylan.
Wait, the Jessica who's not supposed to be in the house
What about Daniel Jr.?
asking for a
He was not home
friend?
from school yet.
Okay. Where does he go to school?
Northwest,
Northwest High School?
middle school then.
Middle school then?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a corresponding note or activity log before this visit?
Yes,
Is that on page 29 of 89?
Yes,
At that point, had these other services been set up for the family?
they've been scheduled.
Okay. What was scheduled?
The Help Me Grow was supposed to go out on the 1st, but she said she would go another time. But she was already in Mahajan, so
Okay. Who was already in Mahajan?
Miss Groves,
Okay. Jessica
Mhm.
Groves?
Jessica Groves.
Okay. Was there any conversation at that point about what you expected from the parents?
It was asked if she needed to continue to go to Mahajan, and I told her that she needed to go until further notice.
Okay. Were there
She's
any
like,
issues with the
I done been to counseling 3 times. I is cured. Right. Okay, ma'am.
home itself?
No,
Were there any issues with the surrounds of the home?
no,
Were there appropriate facilities or items to care for baby Dylan?
yes, actually, Mr. Groves was putting in a crib at that time,
Okay.
and that he had to go back and get a piece that they left out.
Did Mrs. Groves ask about or mention why she inquired about if she had to continue to go to Mahajan?
Because it conflicted with drug court.
Okay. And you informed her that she had to go over to Mahajan over drug court?
No, she
Okay.
needed to continue both.
Okay. How did you explain to do that?
She would have had to work with Mahajan to schedule around it,
Okay.
but she needed to go.
Is that something that a drug facility will do to schedule around the drug court?
Yes,
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to observe baby Dylan at this February 4th meeting?
yes,
Do you recall what he was wearing that time?
a long sleeve sleeper.
Okay. Could you describe a long sleeve sleeper?
It's like a long sleeve with feet in it, and it zips up.
Okay. All right. So it's a full
Full sleeve.
body
Mhm.
zipper. Was he wearing a hat?
No.
Did you have an opportunity? How did you observe baby Dylan?
Jessica was holding him when I was there.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity?
Now, per standard operating procedure, she is supposed to take the baby, undress him every time she sees him to make sure that they aren't covering up, bruises, things like that, with, a long sleeve footy pajama zippered up sleeper. But this woman was like, nah, it'll be fine.
To hold the baby?
No,
Did you have an opportunity to touch or manipulate the baby?
no,
Okay. So from your visual observations, were there any injuries to Dylan?
no,
Was he making any kind of cries of pain or anything of that nature?
no.
What was his demeanor?
He was quiet. She was burping him.
Okay. Anything else eventful happen at this February 4th meeting?
Daniel Jr. came home from school and I introduced myself.
Did Daniel Jr. say anything to you?
No, he said everything was going good.
Okay. No concerns reported?
No concerns.
No medical issues shared?
No,
No indicia from anyone that there was anything amiss?
No.
After this home visit, during the next few weeks, what was your understanding of what's going to be happening in the case plan and with the parents?
that she's going to continue going to counseling, continue going to drug court, schedule a parenting class.
With regard to care of the baby, were there any other things? that they
X
needed
to
do?
doubt that any of those
Well,
happened.
the baby did have a doctor appointment on Thursday of that week.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did the baby attend the doctor's appointments?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, were there times during this period that Mr. Gross failed to contact you?
Yes,
Well, let's talk about the first time that he failed to do so. And if you could,
Yeah, multiple times, and they didn't take this poor defenseless baby out of this home when he continually abused and went against the rules. Again, yes, I am being super critical here, but you all are just as responsible as the Groves for this child, in my opinion. And again, opinions are just like noses, everyone has them, and I would never tell you guys how to feel about this. These are just my opinions only, but in my opinion, this particular, you know, child welfare officer, social worker, caseworker is just as responsible because she failed to do her job. Had she undressed this baby and seen the bruises and the wounds on him, none of this would have happened. If they had retracted their custody of the baby, since the baby was technically in the care of Children's Services because the parents were not doing what they were supposed to do, this baby could still be alive. But no, you just were like, "Nah, let's see how it happens, YOLO." And I'm about done. I have no chill. No.
Refer to whatever note you're looking at for.
February the 21st.
Okay, and what page are you on the record?
Would be 30 of 89.
Okay, thank you. So what did you document with regard to contacts on February 21st?
Caseworker had made multiple phone attempts to contact Daniel. Caseworker left messages but have not had a return call. Caseworker was worried, so caseworker and another caseworker went to the address listed on case, and no one was home. Caseworker staffed with Lisa Thomas, who instructed us to go to the school and talk to Daniel Jr.
Okay. Let me back you up. So it said multiple phone attempts. When did these phone calls start happening?
Early in the morning,
Okay. What day did they start happening?
on the 21st.
Okay. Were there any phone call attempts between when you saw them and February 4th and February 21st?
No,
Okay. So these are calls that were that morning.
yes.
Had there been any discussion of a work schedule before that for Mr. Groves?
Mr. Groves informed me prior to this day that he had 6 months of time saved up at Rural King and he was taken off.
So he was going to take off. Okay. And did he indicate?
Who the hell believed that? Rural King is just like a Walmart, just like everything else. It is a retail thing. How the hell did she think that they were going to have 6 months of, family leave saved up? Ma'am, anyone with critical thinking skills could have seen that this was all a sham, but nah.
In that period of time that they were going on any trips to you?
No,
Did he indicate that there might be times where he has to have a sitter for the baby?
no,
Did he indicate any reason at all why he wouldn't be home with the child?
no,
Had he provided you with what you thought were good phone numbers to contact him?
yes.
And so at this point, how again did you try to get a hold of Mr. Groves?
Me and another caseworker went to the school and talked to Daniel, and I gave him a note that had his dad to call me ASAP.
Okay. And were there any other steps to get a hold of Mr. Groves?
We left notes in the door and in the mailbox that I was there.
Okay. So
Mhm.
you went back to the residence that day on February 21st?
Yes.
Did you see anyone at the residence that day?
We actually saw Daniel Jr. walk in once he got off the bus.
Okay. Back to this period of February 24th or February 4th through 21st, was Help Me Grow also trying to contact the family?
Yes.
Were they successful to your knowledge?
No.
Did you notice anything different about the residence or the property when you went to the property on the 21st?
Other than there was a chain across the road and it said no trespassing, and there was 2 dogs.
Did you see any cars there at the address?
Not the cab, the little red car they had was gone.
All right. What was your next action after that?
I tried face-to-face contact on the next morning. No cars was there.
Was that Friday, February 22nd?
Yes.
Between your contact on the 21st and your point on the 22nd, had you received any kind of contact from the Groves family?
No.
And no one thought this is bad.
What was the
You
next step to
have
try to contact them?
Custody of this
Next
baby.
step was on the 25th. I completed my monthly home visit. Dylan appeared to be clean and appropriate dress.
Had they gotten a hold of you between when you left your note on the 21st and the 25th?
No.
Did you leave another note on the 22nd as well?
Yes,
So during this period, you left several notes. Well, three notes.
3 notes
All right, one with Dylan Jr., one in the mailbox, and a second one in the
and a
mailbox?
card in the door.
And a card in the door?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you get there on the 25th of February, correct?
Yes.
All right, and was there any explanation given as to why they didn't call you back?
They said they went to the doctor on the 21st.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
But no call after, did they acknowledge getting the notes?
Did not.
All right. So Tell us about this visit on the 25th of February. Who all was there?
Daniel and Jessica and Dylan.
How was Dylan?
Dylan was fine. Daniel had stated that he went to the doctor and he weighed 8 pounds and 9 ounces and was 22 inches long.
All right. And you're referring to your note on page 31 of 89 of the
Yes.
activity log? Was everything at the house appropriate?
Yes,
Was there any issues brought up by Daniel to you?
no,
Was there any concerns at this point about issues with his requirements under the case plan?
no.
Was there any concerns brought up about Jessica's compliance with the case plan?
Jessica was not spending the night there. She was there during the day, but she was not living there.
Sure,
Who
Jan.
told you that?
Sure.
Okay. Certainly, in this time period, were you guys going out at night and checking to see if she were there?
Not at that time.
Okay, so at that point, you're relying on Daniel's representations that Jessica is not sleeping there.
Yes,
Do you recall what, and I know it's been a year, but do you recall what baby Dylan was wearing on this visit?
it was cold that day, so he was wearing a long sleeve sleeper.
Okay. Anything on his head?
Nope.
You're inside a house. Is the house warm?
Yes,
Okay. Did Dylan have a lot of hair?
not a lot. It was starting to grow.
Could you see the scalp and the skull?
Yes,
Were there any injuries that you noted to the scalp or the skull?
no,
Any injuries to Dylan in any other way?
no.
How would you know? You never took off his
Did you
clothes.
inquire if everyone was
Yeah.
keeping their appointments?
Yes,
And did either parent indicate that they weren't keeping their appointments?
no, they said they was keeping them.
Was Daniel there when you inquired?
Junior or?
Senior, Daniel
Yes,
Senior.
he was.
Okay. And did he volunteer anything to the contrary?
No,
Did either parent indicate that Mrs. Groves had not been compliant with her drug treatment since February 8th?
no,
And we
At that
didn't
point-
look them up because that's not my job. Really? Really? You guys let this kid go back to his parents. His mother's obviously dealing with substance. And you didn't even check up to make sure she was going to her stupid do not do drugs class. Really? Really? Okay.
Had Mrs. Groves given any indication, any clear indication of where she was staying at night?
friends and family.
Any other details besides that?
That was it.
Was your impression that that was a multiple locations?
Yes,
She was couch surfing, Your Honor.
Did either of them ever admit to you that she was staying at the residence more than allowed?
no,
Did Mr. Groves ever take you aside and say, hey, things aren't what they're supposed to be?
never.
They're allergic to the truth. It's an allergy, Your
When
Honor.
was the next time you were supposed to see the father?
318.
Had there been a time that, I'll strike that. What was the 318 visit supposed to be?
And my monthly home visit.
Where was that? Was that visit to take place there at Mount Hope Road?
Yes,
And did the visit take place that day?
not that day.
Why not?
I got a call stating that he was in Canton, Ohio with his father who had a heart attack. And he needed to schedule it for Thursday at 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is referring to your note on page 32 of 89?
Yes.
Dated 3/18/2019? Okay, so when did that call come in?
That morning,
When were you supposed to be at the home?
that morning.
Okay. Was this a sudden thing according to the text?
Yes,
Okay. Were you able to ever confirm that story?
no,
Did
Make
you
attempts to
even
confirm the
try
later on,
after
Was
the
the visit
baby
rescheduled?
passed
Yes.
away?
When was it rescheduled to?
321.
Did that visit occur?
No,
All right, so you're looking initially probably at page 32 of 89 to page 33, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. So that morning, was it the morning that you went to the home?
yes,
And was there anyone there?
no,
Had you received any call at that point from Mr. Groves?
A voicemail
Okay. When did the voicemail come in? Do you know?
after I got back in the office
Okay.
is when I got it.
And what did the voicemail say?
That his dad got worse and he is still in Canton.
All right. And did you recognize Mr. Groves' voice on the voicemail?
Yes,
Hmm.
When's the next time you saw anyone with regard to the Groves case?
327.
And what happened on that day?
We had our hearing here at juvenile court. Jessica Groves showed up, but Daniel didn't.
Okay. And a hearing, we talked about the process early on in your testimony yesterday. This hearing, was it referred to as an adjudication?
Yes,
And what's the adjudication about?
that's where the investigator testifies of why she removed Dylan.
Okay. I'm actually going to hand you what the marked State's Exhibits 13 and 14. We'll back up a minute. Remember when we had that discussion of the ex parte emergency order that was put on by the judge?
Yes,
Would there be another order confirming that?
should be.
Okay. I'm going to put up on the screen here. Well, I'll hand it to you first after I press council. State's Exhibits 13 and 14 for council. I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 13. Do you recognize that document?
Yes,
What is that document?
is the decision.
Okay. Is that the decision for the confirming the initial emergency order?
Yes,
And does that decision keep custody of home services?
yes,
All right. And that's dated
January the 28th.
January 28th. Okay. So I'm going to put it up here on the screen. The State Exhibit 13 appears to be a true and accurate copy of the court's entry.
Yes,
So this came on from Providence Falls on January 17th, 2019. Is that correct?
yes,
All right. So with that, this entry, it's fair to say this entry basically confirms that emergency removal at the time.
yes,
Does it provide any additional detail other than remaining custody of children's services?
that's it.
I have in front of you what's marked as State's Exhibit 14. Could you identify that for the court?
That is the entry of the court, of the adjudication that was held on March the 27th.
Okay, and this is the date we were talking about before I remembered I had given you the other, right?
Yes,
Okay. Were you at that adjudication?
yes.
Who all was there?
Myself, our attorney, their attorneys, and Jessica Groves.
Okay. And would Dylan be at that adjudication?
Dylan was not at that.
Okay. And that's not abnormal for the child to be at the adjudication, is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And was Mr. Groves at that adjudication?
No,
Where was Mr. Groves?
Was he supposed to be?
yes,
Are you required to be present at all court hearings?
yes,
Did you get a chance to talk to the mother, Jessica Groves, about him not being there?
yes,
Did she indicate where he was?
no,
Did she indicate she knew where he was?
no,
Did you ask her where he was?
no.
Did anybody ask her where he was?
I don't know what the.
No one asked where he was?
Just for the record, I'm placing on the overhead with Mark 6 and 14. In this adjudication, who to custody of Dylan Groves favor?
Children's Services.
Again, our exhibits 12, 13, 14, or 14 true and accurate copies of the entries from juvenile court.
Yes,
Did you inform the mother of anything that was going to happen the next day?
I gave her a card and told her if she sees Daniel, I'll be at his house on March the 28th at 8 a.m.
All right, and that's the next day after the hearing?
Yes,
Had you heard from Daniel at that point?
no,
Y'all are supposed to have custody of this kid, and
Now,
you're like,
on
eh.
March 28th, you indicated you were going to be out at the home at 8 a.m.
yes,
And I believe we would be on page 33 and 34 of your activity log, is that correct?
yes,
Were you able to see some individuals at the home that day?
yes.
Who all was there?
Daniel, Jessica, and Dylan.
Did Daniel explain to you where he was when he should have been in court?
No,
Did you inquire?
no.
Is missing court a big thing?
Depends on the parent.
All right, for you, is it a big thing?
What?
There's a lot that don't come.
Okay. What kind of people don't come to court?
Giblets.
Ones that's hiding stuff,
I'll withdraw the question. When someone misses court, who is a parent in your caseload, do they often explain why they miss court?
no,
Do you even ask? You
And-
heifer.
Again, Mr. Groves did not explain any rationale for missing court the day before.
correct,
Did he talk about his trip to Canton?
no,
Did he talk about his ill grandfather?
no,
Hmm.
Taking good notes, and we'll follow up with that on cross-examination. Objection overruled.
Who else who was there at the home?
Jessica Groves and Dylan and Daniel,
Daniel Senior.
yes.
And how was Dylan?
Dylan was taking a bottle when I got there,
Who was feeding him?
Jessica,
Recall what he was wearing?
a long sleeve sleeper,
Okay. Was he making any crying or any other sounds?
no,
Was there a point where he wasn't taking the bottle when you were there?
yes,
When was that?
when I was getting ready to leave,
Did he make any sounds then?
no,
Who was holding him at that point?
Jessica,
Was Dylan manipulated or moved around from your observations at that point?
no,
Was Dylan wearing a hat?
no,
You indicated he was wearing a sleeper. You described one earlier. Is that the same style?
yes,
Long sleeves, pant legs?
yes,
Did you note any injuries to his head?
no,
If his head were swollen or black and blue, would you have noticed that?
yes,
Are you sure? Because I doubt it.
Did Ms. Groves ask you anything about her case plan?
they just assured me that they was keeping all scheduled appointments,
All right, so who's assuring
And
you
you
of that?
didn't,
both of them,
All right, so both of them, you're saying
You
all
didn't
appointments are
check.
kept?
yes,
Did they indicate they were going to drug court?
yes,
Did they indicate they were going to counseling at Mahajan?
yes,
Did they talk about Jessica's sobriety?
that she was maintaining her Mahajan appointments,
And who again assured you these things were happening?
both Jessica and Daniel.
Did they ask you about, did one of them or both of them ask you about Jessica getting to be back in the home?
Yes, they asked if there was any possibility for Jessica to come back in the home so she can bond with Dylan.
What were your indications at that point?
I stated I had to take it to the supervisor.
the answer is no.
Did you discuss with them upcoming appointments or anything of that nature?
I told them that they had another court hearing on April the 3rd.
Before April 3rd, were there any attempts to contact Daniel or Jessica?
There was one on the 28th with Jessica. I got no response
Was this after your home visit?
after I had left, yes.
Hmm.
Was there an attempt to contact Daniel after your home visit?
I texted Daniel's phone also on the same day, asking him to call me. He texted back and said he would call me just as soon as he could get signal, that he had been sitting with Jessica after I left this morning. He stated she went to the bathroom and had a spell with her UTI, and she was sick and was trying to get into the doctor, been waiting on a call back. He stated he was taking her to the ER and will call caseworker in a minute. Caseworker stated, call me when you get a chance, not a hurry.
Let me ask you, were you able to tell if there's any kind of phone signals out in Otway where they live?
Very limited phone service. You can get a text better than you can get a phone call.
Because I noticed a lot of these interactions are via text.
Correct.
Was that the reason?
Yes.
And
Or maybe because they were hiding something.
did Mr. Groves call you back that day?
No.
What day again was that? 28th?
28th.
Did Mr. Groves call you the next day
No.
or text you or contact you in any way?
No.
What about the day after that?
No. Till April the 3rd is the last time that I had texted him.
Huh.
Okay. So during this period of time, you're making other texts or attempts to contact them? What was supposed to happen on April 3rd?
Court hearing,
Juvenile court?
juvenile court.
And did the court hearing go forward?
It was rescheduled for April the 18th.
The between April 3rd and April 18th, did you attempt to contact Mr. Groves?
Prior, before that, on the day that I visited on March the 28th, I had scheduled my next appointment for April the 9th.
Okay. What note are you looking at there?
I'm on the 4-3 on page 35.
Okay, thank you. Did Mr. Groves specifically text you on April 4th?
Yes.
All right. What did he say?
Stated that everything was okay and going great. He explained that his and Jessica's phone has minutes on them right now, so he borrowed a government phone. Daniel stated he'd text Monday, but he realized it was the wrong number and that him and the phones tended not to get along. Daniel stated that he was sick for a few days, which started on Friday and lasting through Tuesday, and is still feeling in somewhat. He continued to say that Jessica is still battling with her UTI. Daniel stated that they went to Canton on Tuesday and got stranded up there till about 3 p.m. yesterday. Car broke down on us and had to wait on a part to be delivered to part store yesterday around noon, as I know my lawyer was telling you about it. Daniel asked why did the hearing get moved to the 18th? Haven't got to speak to my lawyer a lot yet. Let me know when you got those messages. You are still coming out next Tuesday, I assume. Send text on the phone if you need to contact me or Jessica from now on. We will let you know when we have minutes.
All right, so on April 4th, you received this text. There's no phone conversation between the two of you, correct?
Correct.
It's simply a text and basically saying, we've had some bad luck. We went up to Canton. Bad luck happened. We'll get back with you. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
There's additional, we don't need to go through that, but was he also asking via text about maybe getting some gas vouchers and things of that nature?
Yes.
The
also
audacity to
indicated,
ask for
maybe I
help when
misspoke
you've
earlier.
unalived your
Um,
baby.
There was an uncle up north that was going to get them a dinner to go out for their anniversary.
Yes.
And so he was asking to reschedule something at that point because of that free dinner, right?
Yes.
What was he asking to reschedule?
To reschedule the home visit that I had scheduled for April the 9th.
Okay, and were you accommodating?
Yes.
Well, I mean, why not?
Were there attempts during this period, after this period, to contact Daniel and Jessica?
I tried on 4/17 to inform him that the GAL was coming out to his house between 4:30 and 5 o'clock that day.
Okay, what's a GAL?
Guardian ad litem.
All right, is that somebody involved in the custody case?
Yes.
Is it their job to look at the home, evaluate whether it's in the best interest for the child to be placed back with the parents in custody issues, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. So that person was trying to get a hold of the Groves as well?
Yes.
And were you informing them of the next home visit as well via text that would take place on April 24th?
Yes.
At this point in time, are you making a number of texts or attempting a number of contacts with Daniel?
I had 4 separate phone numbers that he was texting me from.
Were you trying all 4 of those numbers?
All 4 of those numbers was being tried.
And apparently guardian ad litem was, to your knowledge, was the guardian ad litem trying those numbers as well?
Yes.
During this time, did Mr. Groves ever reach out to you or anyone to tell you that something was wrong with Dylan?
No.
During this time, to your knowledge, did Mr. Groves reach out to anyone to tell them that there was something wrong with Dylan?
No.
To your knowledge, were there any calls to 911?
No.
Of course
Did you learn
not.
of some additional information on April 17th from Mahajan Therapeutics?
Yes.
What did you learn?
Jessica had not been compliant.
How long had she not been compliant?
She had not had her individual therapist or any compliant. February the 8th was her last individual session, and her last group attendance was March the 26th.
Well, she's supposed to continue to have individual sessions during the period of February and March.
Yes,
So other than this one noted group attendance on March 26th, had she been compliant with Mahoney?
no, just the 26th,
And if I recall, is that the date before the hearing?
day
Hmm.
before the hearing.
Again, nobody from the Groves family informed you of noncompliance.
Correct, nobody informed me.
There's, when was the next court hearing supposed to take place?
4/18,
Did that hearing take place?
yes.
And who attended that hearing?
His attorney, her attorney, myself, and our attorney. Mr. and Mrs. Grove was not there.
Yeah, they were
Anyone try
hiding
to
the body.
contact Mr. and Mrs. Groves?
Yes, we text messaged all numbers that we had.
Any response at that time?
No,
Go ahead, you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 15. Show the opposing counsel for the record. And what is this document reported to be?
an entry.
From Sutton County Juvenile Court?
Yes,
Is that the dispositional entry of what happened on April 18th?
yes,
Does that appear to be a true and accurate copy of the records of the juvenile court?
yes,
To your knowledge, are all those records kept in the ordinary course of their business, juvenile court,
yes,
and our official court records?
yes,
In this entry, custody remaining with Sutton County Children's Services
correct,
as to Dylan Groves.
yes.
Did you receive another contact from Daniel, Mr. Groves, Daniel Senior, via text?
Yes, on the 19th.
Prior to that text, were any attempts made to contact them? We'll
On
go to
this-
page 44.
We tried on the 18th. We text messaged him while we was in court. And then we didn't get no response.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next day. What did you do then?
I received a text on April the 19th stating he was still up north and that a friend is watching his home while he is away. But I also made a home visit, an unannounced home visit with another caseworker
Was
that morning.
Okay, so that was before this text.
Yes,
So you go out to the home with another caseworker,
yes.
and what do you do when you get to the home?
We knocked on the door for several minutes. We looked around. I left a card in the door and in the mailbox for him to call me.
Was anyone home to your knowledge?
No,
Um, Then you received there's a contact made to Rural King, correct?
yes.
Was that before or after the text from Daniel?
You mean y'all didn't ever look to see if he had actual daggone employment, you know, a gerb? You know, you didn't do your part, your investigation. You were just like, he said he has a gerb. This is great. I don't have to do any detective work. I kind of thought that was your job, but you know, far be it from me, a weirdo on the internet, to say anything. I'm sure you were doing your gerb just fine.
Before.
Okay. You contacted Rural King. Why did you contact Rural King?
I wanted to verify he was working and maybe he went back to work is what I thought.
What did they indicate as to his employment status?
He had not been working there since 2018.
Do you recall when in 2018 he quit working there?
No,
Seems like something you would have investigated
So you
before you
received this
handed a
text
fragile
there.
infant back to
Up
them.
north, friends watching the house. Does he say anything or represent to you anything about the health of Dylan?
He said, Dylan is doing great, growing like a weed, LOL. I was going to contact you when I return from this trip this weekend. My uncle come down and picked us up because my car is broken down and can't really drive my truck from hitting a deer. My friend is going to drive my truck this weekend, some just like from his house to mine, which is only like 8 miles away from my house. And he sometimes we'll be riding the four-wheeler back and forth as well, he told me. But I will contact you when I return home. It will probably be Monday night or Tuesday morning, whenever my uncle can bring us back. But I will definitely be in contact with you. Is court still set for May 18th? Just wondering, because that's what the last paperwork I received, it would be anyways. But wanted to let you know everything was okay with us, and sorry, haven't been in contact. It's just been rough having no phone, and I hate to ask to use other people's phone. I feel like I bother to them. LOL. Happy Easter to you and your family. Talk to you next week.
We've already contacted you from 4 different numbers, right?
Yes.
Once again, his uncle's coming down to pick him up.
None of these were
Yes.
red flags.
He mentioned May 18th as a court date. What was the court date supposed to be?
April 8th.
April 18th. Mentions that Dylan is growing like a weed.
Yes.
LOL.
Ma'am, don't even try to start crying. We know you do not care at all.
Did you have any
Human
concerns at
breeder.
this point? Probably earlier, but did you have any concerns at this point about how things were going?
Yes.
Just now you have
Let me ask you
concerns,
this.
just at this point.
As a caseworker at Children's Services, again, how long did you work there?
I worked there, before I got Dylan's case, I was there 6 months.
Okay, in that 6 months, had you had a number of cases that you worked on?
Yes.
Is it sometimes common for people not to contact you?
Not all the time.
Not all the time? Okay. Did this case concern you more than those other cases?
Yes.
How so?
Because I hadn't had contact for so long with him and where we was trying to get in touch with him.
And so at this point in the thing, he's supposed to stay in contact with you.
Yes.
Mr. Groves is supposed to ensure the children are protected, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Groves assured you that Mrs. Groves would be going to drug treatment, correct?
Yes. Yes.
That she wasn't in the house more than what you guys allowed.
Correct.
He had represented to you that he was employed.
Correct.
So what was the plan of Children's Services at this point with regard to baby Dylan?
I continued to try to make contact with him throughout from the 19th. I went on the 22nd, the 23rd, the
Okay.
24th.
At this point, were there any thoughts to remove baby Dylan from their care?
Yes.
At this point, were there any thoughts with regard to Daniel Jr.?
We had took custody of Daniel Jr. on the 24th.
Okay. So let's back up a day. You said that you went to the home, was that April 23rd?
Yes.
All right, what did you observe at the home?
No one was home, so we left a note in the door and in the mailbox. The items on the porch was not the ones that was left on the porch Friday evening when I was out there with the sheriff. No one answered the door. There was a trailer parked in front of a camper. The attachment to the truck was off. Truck was turned around differently. Bathroom window was down, I'm sorry, and the living room window was up. Motion detectors made the noise where in the past they never made the noise.
Let's talk about that.
Huh.
You mentioned before there was sometimes a chain or a wire across the road to get to the home driveway?
Yes.
Okay. Were there also, did you notice motion detectors?
Yes.
Where were those located?
As you're going into the driveway, it's almost to their trailer. One's on this side and one's back here.
And they, to your knowledge, were those located there every time you visited?
Yes, but they never made a sound.
Okay, so this time they're making a sound.
Yes.
You indicated that there were items on the porch from the previous Friday.
Yes.
What were those items again?
There was some water jugs, some shoes. There was some sort of like a ladder up against the wall of the trailer on the porch.
Okay,
Mhm.
It was
and
cleaned.
it was clean?
Yeah, it wasn't clean before.
Okay. So somebody had been there.
Yes.
It was the cleaning fairy.
How long
Don't
did
you
you
all have a
stay,
cleaning
Janelle,
fairy?
call how at that residence on 423?
5 or 10 minutes because we knocked and screamed and looked around.
Look in the window,
Yes,
count on the doors.
yes.
What did you do next?
Then we went to the school to talk to Daniel Jr.
And just for clarification, this is on April 23rd?
Yes,
And was that a Tuesday, to your knowledge?
yes,
So Daniel was in school at Northwest. You went and spoke to him?
yes.
What was his demeanor?
He was nervous talking to us. He calmed down a little bit later on. We just asked about Dylan, and he stated he was fine. I also asked him about his mom staying at the house, and he said yes, and then said occasionally. I did request to tell his dad that I needed to talk to him ASAP.
Did you ask him about anybody else in their family?
I asked him about the Daniel's senior's dad, which would be Daniel Jr.'s granddad.
What did he say?
Who was that?
Great job. Wonderful job, CPS.
Was it your understanding that Daniel Senior's dad was the one in Canton?
Yes,
So when you asked about Daniel Jr.'s grandfather,
he
You
had
know-
no clue who I was talking about.
was there any change in plans
All-
regarding Daniel Jr. at this point?
So you're telling me you didn't even look at hospitals like, hey, my dad's had a heart attack. You're like, kind of been some red flags, haven't been showing up to court. Just going to check for, funsies. If grandpa really had a heart attack, if Grampy's really in the ER. Nope, cannot be bothered.
Not at this time.
What was the next action by Children's Services?
We went back to the office, and then on,
Skip ahead to page 50 of 89.
I received a text on the 23rd, received a text saying they both, if you can find them, which that was where we had staff with our supervisor about taking both Daniel and Jessica if we could find them.
All right, that's page 51 of 89. So at that point, Children's Services has decided we're going to get physical as well as legal custody of both.
Yes.
All right, how did you obtain custody or physical custody of Daniel Jr.?
I went out on the day, and I had called the school and told them not to let Daniel leave the school, that I would be out there to pick him up.
And did you do so?
Yes,
And were you able to find an appropriate placement for Daniel Jr. at that point?
yes.
Who?
He's with his aunt and uncle.
Okay. Was there an evaluation on their home,
Yes,
safety audit,
yes,
drug screen?
yes. Background check.
Background check.
Oh, you mean all the things you didn't have the parents do? Nothing frosts my flakes or burns my biscuits more than the fact that these parents have to do jack diddly crap and they can, flout the rules, not show up to court, not do their drug testing, not do their screenings. But you're like, well, they're trying. Give you all sorts of BS fakakta cockamamie stories that you don't look at, you don't look up. No one called Rule King to see that he had 6 months of family leave, knowing that is ludicrous for a retail store. No one said, "That sounds like a lie." Nope, not no one? Okay. Well, I think we need to do an IQ test on Scioto County social workers because I don't think they have enough, mental horsepower to run the world if you or light a 25-watt bulb,
Yes,
allegedly.
When you were there, did they receive a text from Daniel Groves Sr.?
Yes,
Did you have the opportunity to review that text?
yes.
What was that text about?
They wanted to know why Daniel didn't get off the school bus.
So at that point, it's still April 23rd, correct?
Correct. 24th.
24th, I'm sorry. So at that point, on April 24th, you guys act, remove Daniel Jr. from the home, so he doesn't get off the school bus. And while you're still at that home getting him settled, they receive a text saying Daniel didn't get off the school bus
Correct.
from Daniel Groves Sr.
Yes.
Huh, he could find a phone to text someone.
Did you receive a
Really
text
strange.
from Daniel Sr.?
Later on that evening, I did.
What was it about?
He texted me asking why I took Daniel. Daniel stated that, I mean, come on, do you know what you're doing to him? This will affect his schoolwork. His whole life will be. I can't believe you took him. He never had nothing to do with any of the situation at all, and this is hurting him more than anything or anyone. Where is he anyway?
So at this point, you
Uh,
get a text, Mr. Groves is expressing concern. I mean, there's some, that you guys removed Daniel from.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, in the record, you have a lot of question marks after some of his questions, like multiple question marks and an exclamation point. Is
yes,
that correct? So he's concerned at that point about what Children's Services is doing with Daniel Jr.
yes.
Ah, well, isn't that special, Satan? Do not stop
What was
crying,
Children's
ma'am.
Services' next step? What was your next step with regard to this case? Oh, wait a minute, let me back up. You receive any, did you attempt any more visits at the residence?
On April the 30th. I'm sorry, April the 24th, the day that I received the text from Daniel on why I took Daniel, well, when I was placing him, I left the placement and went directly to the home.
Why'd you do that then?
Pardon me?
Why did you decide to do that then?
Because he had wanted to know how Daniel wasn't there, so I thought, well, then they're home, so I went out there.
Okay. Was anyone there when you got there?
No,
Did you knock on the door?
I knocked, I screamed, I even jumped up and down to try to see if there was anybody in the house. The dogs was barking. The windows was opposite this time. The living room window was down and the bathroom was up.
Any cars or vehicles?
Both cars was there.
The,
The truck and the car, and then the four-wheeler was there.
what was your understanding of the car that they got around?
The red Cavalier, I believe
Okay.
it's Cavalier.
And was it
Oh,
there?
Yes, it was there.
Okay. During this time period, and if you could talk in general, were there texts forwarded to you or directed to you that were from Daniel?
Yes.
What was the nature of those texts?
There was
Stupid
one on,
belligerence.
426 that stated, well, the person that was supposed to give him a ride to court this morning just screwed them over and
Okay.
said,
So another excuse.
correct.
Was there another text
Sure.
later?
Back and forth,
Okay. More excuses.
more excuses.
My shock. There is no excuse for these two.
What action was taken by, was there a representation made by Daniel Sr. to you that he would be returning baby Dylan?
Yes.
What was the date of that representation?
There was one text that I had sent Daniel that he needed to have Dylan and Daniel Jr. stuff at the agency on 425. And then once again, I received a text at 7:52 a.m. stating that he'd bring Dylan to our agency the first thing Tuesday morning,
Okay, what page are you on for that, ma'am?
55 of 89.
Thank you.
These
Did
two lumps of
the
humanity.
Groves bring baby Dylan in that morning?
No,
After they failed to show, what happened next? Did the agency file any kind of report?
on the 30th, I filed a missing person report,
Who did you file that report with?
Scioto County Sheriff's Department.
At this time, did you also receive information from Christ Care Pediatrics?
I received information from them on May the 1st. I received an email stating that they was trying to get in touch with me.
To your knowledge, had Christ Care been attempting to contact the parents as well?
Yes,
And were they successful in contacting the parents?
no,
Because they are worthless, useless lumps on the
was there a
taint
medical
of
concern?
humanity.
Well, at least at that time, were you under the impression that there was a medical concern regarding Dylan from Christ Care Pediatrics?
yes, the nurse from Christ Care called and informed that they would needed to repeat some lab work on Dylan back in February that his parents had not completed. Dylan had an abnormal newborn screening, and if it's not treated, it could cause brain damage. She faxed all the paperwork to caseworker, and she said that he also had an appointment on May the 2nd, also at 2 p.m.
All right. Now, did that turn out that that was actually a lack of communication between the doctors, that there was the subsequent test and he was normal?
Yes,
Okay. But at that point in time, did that add to your concerns?
yes.
If you would, can you go to the second paper clip? It should be page 1 of 53 of the activity log. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, what was the agency doing to try to get baby Dylan back?
We was trying, I was text messaging him. I was trying to get a court order for the sheriff to help. We also did tried to get an Amber Alert.
Okay. How many texts were you sending?
I texted him on every phone number that I had for him.
Did you make any attempts to follow up with any relatives up north?
Yes,
Did you have any luck with that?
no.
What did you do to try to find them?
I Googled the Grove's name in Canton, Ohio. So I took each name and dialed every phone number. A lot of the numbers was disconnected, but the people that I did talk to didn't know who I was talking about.
So every Groves listed under Google in Canton, Ohio, you made an attempt to call.
Yes,
The numbers that Daniel had given you earlier that you called him on, was anybody responding to those?
no,
Had Daniel ever given you a number of any of his relatives up north?
no,
Had Daniel ever given you a name of any of his relatives up north?
no.
You had mentioned an Amber Alert. Let's back up a moment. On May 3rd, was there another attempt to locate the family at the residence? On page
Yes.
3 of 53.
Yes,
Okay. Who all went there that time?
myself, another caseworker, and a deputy sheriff.
Okay. Any luck?
No,
What cars were there?
there was no red Cavalier in the driveway, but the truck was there. The camper was there. There was another white vehicle there with the doors open.
So you're telling me that their car got fixed? Because I thought their truck and car died, and that's why they were left in Canton and couldn't go to court. It's almost like they were lying. Listen, you two. Considering this is the last time you ever are going to see each other, with my hopes and prayers being that's the case,
Do not
I
discuss
don't
this
care.
case amongst yourselves. Do not discuss it with anyone else. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on this case until it's finally submitted to you. Ms. Kraft, I would remind you that you're not to discuss the substance of your testimony until you finish your testimony here today. All right? You can stay there or you can take a break if you need to. Just be outside the door here in just a few minutes. When the jury's ready to return to the courtroom, we'll return and finish the morning's testimony. Court is recessed.
Okay, guys, that is day one morning before their break. The Court TV has, or Law and Crime has chopped this up in the weirdest daggone way. So I am trying to give you guys things in chronological order, but the way they have just chopped this case up is just insanity. And look, y'all, I am sorry I am all fired up, but the fact that child services has nothing better to do than annoy the hell out of me, but can't keep this family and this baby safe, frosts my flakes just a little bit, to be real honest with you. I'm just saying a vote for Mo for president means that I will tear down these systems and get us a better one. If I have to fire every single care worker and, institute people with brains, allegedly. Anywho, it's a rough world out there. If you have kids, give them an extra hug. If you have people that you know that are struggling with addiction, encourage them to get help. Look, I'm not trying to demonize addicts, but you can't be an addict and a good parent, and this case proves that, and I don't know why Children's Services just didn't even do a cursory exam into these people, almost like they were just like, "YOLO, whatever," and let him go into the great wild yonder with his dingus parents who give us Hillchucks a bad name. Look, just because you're Hillchuck doesn't mean you have to be a daggone boil on the taint of humanity. Anywho, I will see you guys later. Bye.